Boaz, Alabama is a town about as big as your average water heater closet. It was a quiet night. The sun had set. Houses were all lit from the insides. And the Bevel Center was packed, an auditorium whose parking lot was slammed. Families of all kinds had gathered inside the auditorium for this upcoming Veterans Day to watch their fifth graders put on a concert. Demographically, the audience was all over the map. The place was full of pre-concert chatter. Happy, bubbly conversations filled the room. Kids were horsing around. Babies were crying. Dads were shaking hands and slapping each other's shoulders to prove that they were good shoulder slappers. Mothers were catching up on local gossip, and the teens were forming their respective clots among themselves. And then the curtain lifted. On stage, the Boaz fifth graders were all wearing red, white, and blue t-shirts, organized to form a living flag. Miss Ritchie took the stage. A woman in the audience said, "She's been directing choir here since I was a kid. Most of the people in this audience, they had Miss Ritchie for choir." Well, Miss Ritchie had the troops looking good that night. The fifth graders occupied the risers in order according to height. Little kids below deck, tall kids topside. And I noticed they were all wearing looks of pure nervousness, the kind you see at all school programs around the globe. I could see one boy's hands were quivering, and another girl was bouncing her legs. My first thought is the same thought I have at all school concerts. Why do we do this to our kids? See, I remember doing these concerts when I was a kid, and I was always so nervous on stage that I might as well have been naked. I remember thinking to myself back then, why are the adults making us do this? After all, not everyone wants to be a singer. Not everyone wants to be on a stage before a trillion people, and even fewer in their lifetime will sign up for a public speaking elective in high school. Fact. Public speaking is the world's number one phobia. It affects 75% of the globe. Glossophobia, it's called. Those who suffer often vomit before making public appearances. Others have to change their trousers. Many do both, which is awful. So why do we do this to our kids? What's the point? Especially when there is no greater state of underconfidence than being a fifth grader. That night, the nerves on stage were palpable. Some kids looked like they wanted to disappear. Others looked like the proverbial deer in the high beams. The concert began, and they sang songs about America. There were recitations, poems, dances. One girl wore an oversized Uncle Sam hat. Midway through the performance, a projection screen unfurled to display a slideshow of old photographs of some veterans. Some were deceased, some were living. But all veterans were related to the people in this auditorium somehow. A black and white image of a serviceman from Vietnam. Pictures from Korea, Hitler's war, Iraq, Afghanistan. An image of a young seaman in his Dixie cup hat. A soldier in digicam fatigues wearing his headwear. National Guardsmen, Marines, Air Force captains, rear echelon guys, COs. There must have been hundreds of photos shown, and from each photo, the room applauded. Kids and audience members alike, they all clapped. One boy on stage showed a full salute, and the whole time, the kids were singing the songs of the military branches. Caissons, anchors away, from the halls of Montezuma, off we go into the wild blue yonder. The official song of the Coast Guard, the Space Force song, and with each melody, the veterans in the audience stood, male and female, both young and old. They stood at attention, with their shoulders back. There were several vets who stood to represent the Air Force. Even more stood to represent the Army and Navy. Only one Marine. And the little girl took the center stage. She was a fifth grader, and she was fidgeting with her t-shirt, nervous. The girl sang, "We honor you on Veterans Day," with the voice of a cherub, and people cried. The song ended. The place came unglued. Whereupon Miss Ritchie finished by leading us all in a rendition of "God Bless America." I sang, and so did everyone else, and a few sang harmony, but everyone knew the words. And that's when I realized why we do this to our children. And I hope and pray that we never quit.